Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Back working on the BMW E46 today, and we are going to be swapping out both of the track rods and the track rod ends. Now then, these are the track rod assemblies that I'm going to be installing today. As you can see, it's just one piece, so we have the track rod itself and then also the track rod end. We have both sides obviously. Now these were sent out to me by Autodoc, and they are by a company called Ridex or Ridex, so we'll see how we get on with these. And we have two new track rod boot assemblies as well with the new clips. Now if you do want to check out any of these parts, I will leave links down in the description box below, but without further ado, let's get outside and let's get cracking. Another glorious day, as you can see here in the UK. First thing we need to do is get the front of the car up in the air because we need to take the wheels off. So what we'll do is we'll jack up the front of the car via the front subframe, and then we'll put an axle stand on the jacking points on either side. So then the car is up in the air then. Like I said, supported on the front axle stand with the trolley jack and then a axle stand either side. Both of the wheels are now off. So let's get a closer look at what the original track rod and track rod ends look like. Okay then, so if we take a look in here at the original track rod ends, you can see they are, pretty rusty. I don't believe they have, any excess play in them. There's no knocks or anything when it comes to, driving on the road. But if you take a look at the boots themselves, you can see these are actually the incorrect boots for this car. I believe these are just some generic aftermarket ones, and yeah, this is pretty much the reason that I'm actually replacing the whole track rod assembly. I mean, we could strip this down and find that the ball joint is pretty worn, and that the joint where it goes into the steering rack is worn as well. But yeah, the real reason they're actually stripping this down is because of those nasty boots there. If you have a look on the other side as well, this one is also the incorrect boot for the car, and this one looks pretty cracked as well. So yeah, I'll be pleased to get this one removed. See, this track rod, this looks in a bit better condition, so it's likely that this one has been replaced. But like I said, we have a set. You should always replace them in pairs, so we are going to be replacing both of them today. Okay then, so first thing you want to do is turn the wheel outwards just so you have as much access as possible. Now in my case, the ball joint end nut is a 19mm. I'm guessing this is an aftermarket one, so if yours is genuine it may be a different size, but yeah, this one is a 19. So we'll go ahead and crack this loose. Yeah. There we go, and I'm just going to leave the nut on there until we can get the ball joint out of the knuckle. May have to either prise against it or tap this down to remove it from here, because they can get pretty seized into the hub here. Finally, we managed to get the ball joint out. So the ball joint, well, the threads had seized right into the hub, and yeah, it required a lot of heat via this propane gas and a lot of taps with this mallet to the side of the hub. I've never had a track rod end be stuck into the hub as bad as that. Now what we need to do then is remove this entire assembly from the steering rack itself. So we need to remove this boot. This end has just torn off of the cable tie that someone's put on there, and the other end is still fixed in place with a cable tie. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that, and then we should be able to pull this back then. Yeah, cable tie can come off. There we go. And we can see at the end of the track rod where it meets the steering rack, we have some flats. Now you can either get the correct size spanner or wrench on there, or you can just use an adjustable wrench, which is what I'm going to do. There we are. And now we can just go ahead and twist this entire assembly off. There we are. That's fully removed. Okay then, so once you have your original track rod assembly removed from the car, what you want to do is put it next to your new track rod assembly, and essentially you want to try and make these as close as possible to be in the same length. Don't worry, you're not going to get absolutely bang on to the millimeter. You just want to get it somewhere close, because if it's way out, then obviously your toe adjustment is going to be way out. So if your steering wheel is pointed dead straight, then your wheel may be pointed outwards or inwards. So you do want it to be as close as possible, but yeah, don't over stress it. Now to adjust it, to make it, you know, longer or shorter, so in our case we need to make the new one shorter, all you need to do is twist the track rod itself into the track rod end. So it looks something like that. Obviously we need to make some, you know, small minor adjustments. I need to try and get them as close as possible. But before we do that, I'm actually going to go ahead and, number one, grease these threads with some copper grease, because when it comes to adjusting these with the adjuster nut, over time this thing can get seized on. So if you have some grease on here, it's just going to prevent that from happening, and whoever does your wheel alignment will thank you for that, believe me. So yeah, always good practice to put some copper grease on here. And because we are replacing the boot as well, and this new boot is a OEM one, so it actually comes apart in two parts. So if you just remove the end of it, we actually have to slide this over the track rod itself first, and it sits in this little groove here. So we need to remove this completely anyway, and then put this in place. And then this part, this can actually go over the steering rack while we screw this in place onto the steering rack, and then we can slide it into position once it's on the car. Okay, and so we have the track rod separated from the track rod end, and yeah, if we just go ahead and slide this part of the boot over the top, and like I said, just sits in that little groove there, and yeah, now we can reassemble the entire assembly, so the track rod into the track rod end, with some copper grease, of course. So there we are then. We can see that the old to the new is pretty close. You know, there's probably, I'm guessing, a couple of millimeters in it, but like I said, we're not trying to perfect it. We will get that adjustment that is needed when we go for the wheel alignment. So now then, if we go back underneath the car, what we can do is install our new boot. Now essentially we have a lip on the boot, and we want that to go over this lip here on the steering rack. So if we slide it over, there we are, that's on nicely. And we do have our securing clip, but I'm not going to stick that on yet. I'm just going to make sure the track rod goes on as it should first. But essentially all we need to do is screw this into the end of the steering rack. There we go then. And once we have that tight by hand, we can then take our adjustable wrench and tighten it down some more. And there we are then. That should be nice and tight. And then what we'll do is install the ball joint end into the hob. And then install our new nylock nut. Now I'm not going to torque this nut down yet, I'm just going to sort the boot out first. Now to make this shorter, a shorter distance, what I'm going to do is turn the steering wheel the other way, and then this end should meet the rest of the boot then, and then we can install our clamps and whatever else. Now we can go ahead and install our one-time use clips. So if you don't know how these work, essentially you can open them right up, and then they have little teeth on the end here, and you have some holes. So essentially you want to put this as tight as possible by hand, insert the teeth into the hole so they lock into place like so, and then you want to use a pair of pliers, or if you have the correct tool, the correct pair of pliers for the job, you then essentially just squeeze this little stub on the top together, and then it pulls this thing really tight then. So we'll go ahead and slide this over. So yeah, I can only get it on the first two by hand. Now if we grab our tool, squeeze this together, make sure it's seated correctly first. There you go, that's pulled it together nice and tight now, that's not going anywhere. So we'll do the same for this one. There we are then, that's the new boot installed and secured with the two new clips. So now then all we need to do is tighten down this nut. Now if you just go to tighten it down, normally the entire ball joint would just spin, so you need to insert a Allen key into the top. In my case a 5mm, yours might be different. But yeah, now we can go ahead and tighten this down. Supposed to be torqued down to 45 Newton meters, but if you're just using a spanner or a ratchet spanner, then just go ahead and do it pretty tight. There we are. The nut shouldn't come loose anyway, it is a nylon locking nut, so yeah, you should be good for that. But that is this side now done. And as you can see, also went ahead and done the other side as well. Complete new track rod assembly, new boot, new clips, perfect. Now if you take a look at the steering wheel, it is locked in the middle position. Now your wheels, or your hubs, should be facing somewhat forward, both in the same direction, which they are. Obviously, like I said, they are going to be slightly out, but if they are majorly out, so say if one hub is pointing way over to the one side and the other is straight, for example, then it means that you have got to make some kind of adjustment before you drive it, ideally, because you are just going to destroy your tyres. But with now both of the track rod assemblies now replaced, we can go ahead and put the wheels back on and then take this thing for a wheel alignment. Okay then, so that is both of the track rod assemblies now replaced on the BMW E46 project. I've actually just got back from a wheel alignment and the car drives much better now. It drives absolutely in a straight line, which is perfect. Another thing done, and yeah, we really are running out of things left to do on this project now. But yeah, I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!